Hello, and welcome to the Todd and Taylor Show. I'm Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask. Hey, what's going on?
How's it going?
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done this.
It has. We were just talking about this. It may not have been as long as we think since we released an episode, because we did an episode of Logan with our friend Emily Kelly, the one of the hosts of the Fan Theories podcast.
Yes.
And that was not that long ago.
It wasn't. It feels like it was last year, though, in my mind.
But we were out of practice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
my office
it's like
different, so it's
Yeah, it's that thing. It's like I don't actually work out or do anything strenuous like that. But if I take time away from playing guitar, that first time back is like, oh my god, like what? How long have I been away?
You kids at home may not realize this, but this actually requires a little bit of practice, so to speak.
Yeah.
To stay in the groove. You're going to hear me, especially today. I'll probably have, brain farts and word salads like you've never heard, but that's, we'll get back into the groove of it. I'm sure.
So as people who regularly make, creative projects and always have many projects going, you and I are very self-critical when we're not hitting the goals we want to or something. And at least, so we're talking on March 24th today. Yep. And maybe even a month ago, maybe even more than that, we were kind of kicking ourselves for like we hadn't done many episodes since the start of the year. And the end of the year, there was kind of a slowdown. And then one of us pointed out, like, well, you know what? That same thing happened last year.
Yep.
And that is one of the huge benefits to doing a creative thing year over year, is that you can kind of look back and figure out these trends. And actually, I mean, at least for me, it made me feel a little less self-critical. Like, maybe there's just a natural a slowdown, where we're not firing on all cylinders in January and February.
Think about last year was our first full year, because I think we started like May or June of 15.
Exactly.
Last year would have been our full year. And last year we launched another show that, Wednesday in Westeros didn't exist in February of last year. We were sort of talking about it, but that was a brand new thing. So it's like, for some reason in my mind, it feels like we've been doing this way longer than we actually have. And not even to add to that, like, we're working on a comic book web series, or rather a comic shop web series and other kinds of stuff. So like there's a lot in the pipeline, but as we were chatting about that, it made me think, I'm like, this is the second or third year now where I've been very conscious of the fact that, I think December, let's just say early mid-December to probably end of February, I tend to go into this kind of creative lull, like a hibernation of sorts. And maybe it's the weather, maybe it's just, I need a break. I don't know. And then it seems like every March, and then this happened to me in the last week or two. Like I recharge, like I'm fired. My brain is firing and kinetic, and I'm interested in things again. Cause I dare even say this. I wasn't even reading as much comics as I normally do, like December, January, and, early February, I kind of started getting back into the groove, but now I'm just like on a total binge consumption mode again. So it's like my brain just kind of came back on, and this is the second year that's happened. And it made me ask the question, like, is creative hibernation a thing for everybody? Is that something that because I don't hear it talked about a lot. You don't see many articles about it.
I hear people talk about, taking a break, like, kind of like flushing the cache, kind of restore, like, what do you do to kind of restore yourself? But I do think what's really interesting is that we're able to look at like our calendar of releases and go, oh, wait a second. We both had to take that hibernation in the same place year over year. It's not like, sometime in June, we got burned out and we were like, hey, let's take some time off. Yeah. It's like, or it's not like it occurred randomly throughout the year. It happened in January and February, and we know that now, so we can plan a little bit better going into next year, which to me is just like that kind of insight is so interesting.
Yeah. Do you ever, is it ever seasonal for you? Like it's been for me, at least the last 2 or 3 years.
For the longest time, and still partially, have always felt like I don't know that I've ever connected it definitely to creativity, but just sort of life in general, and life events and job situations and housing situations and stuff always seem to run on like from school. That was like that was so ingrained as part of my calendar that I always saw like there's a natural break of something in May.
Mm-hmm.
There's a natural like break at the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a natural break, at the end of December, like not even talking about the end of the year, but just sort of that feeling of like, we're cruising into Christmas, I'm going to take a couple weeks off or something of just, so this is all very interesting because I'm super self-critical and like to imagine that that's not even true. I was about to say I like to imagine I'm high productivity all the time, but really mostly I'm just frustrated at myself for not hitting my own arbitrary goals for productivity.
Well, and there's a whole other episode / blog post or even book to be written about, a lot of times one of the tricks of creative pursuits is you just got to do the work, even if you don't feel like it. I know with my writing, that's always been haunting me, and I've gotten better and better at sort of just realizing that because I think when you have an idea or when you're working on an idea and you're just like everything's firing on all 8 cylinders and you just feel like that excitement, you get addicted to that, and then you want that to be the feeling every time. And I think you confuse that feeling for the thing, and you just got to realize, that'll be there, but that won't, not always. And you just got to like kind of take it as it comes and appreciate it, but still power through and keep doing the work. And I think not that wasn't necessarily the case with their or with anything else we're doing, but just like I'd noticed, as you mentioned, like situational factors, like I was thinking I was sick for most of January, like horribly sick. My grandmother died in February or late January, early February. So there was that. There was a lot of things that I'm sure if you take away the fact, the time of the year, that probably played into this too.
Well, and another thing that you and I should not discount is that although I'm in an in-house position right now, you and I are very, very intimately tied to client work.
Yeah.
And there is always a natural drop off of new contracts, mid-December.
True. Yep.
And so I have definitely felt that in years where I was a full-time freelancer where, I had to store up all the acorns, from like November to March, because it was really hard to get at least a sustaining like long-term contract during that time. And I think that just kind of gets built into your own calendar of like, there's a lot of hustle and not much, product to show for it from.
Are you one of those people that when you're busier, you can just do more because you're busier? Like, and I ask that because like, when we've got a lot going on, like just work wise, I tend to do more side stuff just because my brain has to keep going. Like if I try to, like if I'm not that busy, so like January, typically, in the world of agency work or client work, you're not that busy. So you almost, you would think on the surface, oh, you have all this time to do all this other stuff. But because you're not as frequently busy day to day, it's almost like your brain doesn't have that on ramp to stay active and going. So you almost kind of get like too relaxed, too comfortable. That happens to me occasionally. I've just noticed like, even though I might be a little bit more stressed, when I've got so much going on that I have to schedule it, it seems like I get more done.
I wish I could say that's the case, but the critic in me sort of is taking over right now and saying like, no, you fail at it all the time. That's sort of,
you should keep a mental, you and then whoever's listening should keep a mental sort of diary of just like, hey, when am I at my best productivity wise? Is it a certain time of year? Is it a certain time of day? Like, what are those factors? Because I think, there's no one size fits all solution, but I do wonder, like, are we ever talking about the right things? Like 99U, which is a Behance publication, they put out emails all the time about this kind of stuff, and they hit on a lot of good points, but I always feel like a lot of people in the industry, in the business, like there are things that might be useful that aren't brought up, or just, little nooks and crannies that I don't think people are looking at when they talk about their own creativity or their relevance or their just product, all that stuff.
So well, for me, I think we've talked about this on other podcasts specifically, maybe like, I can't remember how we started naming these seasons, but there's an episode in our archive called See You There, where we first started talking about the There Network. And I think that's the one where we kind of caught up on big creative stuff that you and I had been doing. And I think like when you're thinking like kind of artistic creative projects, uh, this is a huge like generalism. So correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor and audience, but I think a lot of us get that feeling of like we're working on something big, and it's like until you get that done, you're Sisyphus rolling that stone up the mountain like it's this huge stone. But really, what I've learned from working on the web for so long and getting into a lot of those productivity tips and processes and things like that you would find with 99U is like it's really to me all about iteration. Yeah. And so the critic in me goes, oh my God, you've been working on this like long short book for, almost a year now. And you published your last long short book in June. And now you've got 3 months to finish this one. And you're like, in your marks, it's the end of March. I got the 2 months really. And like, I'm not where I was last year. This is frustrating to me. But then if I think iteration wise, I go, no, I crank out a column like every week that's like, 7 to 1,200 words or something. Yeah. And I have a full-time job and we do podcasts. And it's like, my God, like, I mean, why do I have these outrageous goals? Like I should be publishing, 12,000 word books every 6 months or something. That's crazy.
Yeah. But don't dismiss the fact that, a lot of ambitious goals get accomplished, and a lot of people do really cool stuff around ambitious goals. Like I think it's a balance of both. Yeah. It's like, because I do the same thing where it's like, I'm not doing enough. And then when you actually take true inventory of what you're doing week to week, you're like, Jesus Christ. And so, cause like a lot of people, I'll admit this for the first time. I have been one of those people who I am fairly consistently busy, but then there's some weeks out of the year where I'm just not, or I'm just like, I'm not going to really try this week just because I'm just exhausted and burnt out. And I'm just going to kind of coast. And people will come up to me during those times and go, oh my God, you get enough sleep last night? I'm like, and I don't want to say like, well, yeah, I slept like 9 hours. I'm fine. Because I kind of want to keep up. I don't want to break the illusion, because like when I am busy, I want people to respect that, so I don't want people to think, oh, he's never busy. But it's just when you actually take, I don't know why I brought that up. When you actually take inventory of what you are doing and working on, it's like, oh, you got to be respectful to that while still having like audacious, ambitious kinds of things that you want to do. And I think there's a happy medium. I'm 35 and I'm still not, I haven't figured it out yet. And I feel like, I always kind of feel like there's 2 or 3 things. If I can just solve these life equations, I'll be rocking until I'm dead. I just haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Yeah. I think for me, I felt exactly that same way. There's just 2 or 3 life equations. If I can figure this out, this is like the TOE, like the theory of everything that I'm going to figure out. And then I hit 40 and was like, nope, never going to figure it out. It all sucks. Fuck everything.
The journey is part of
decaying carbon shell. It's like continually faulty.
It's like you need one of those like wise monks to come up and go, the journey is the adventure. Or like it's like the ending is not what it is for.
So I definitely don't want to shit on like huge ambitious projects. I think when I find that like I'm frustrated that I don't have the end product out, it's because I'm focused on the end product, and I should have probably chopped it into a bunch of tinier steps. And then I'd be much happier with like, oh, I got this tiny step done and I got this tiny step done, and that's really what that progress is about, is like get to the goal. And like, the Zen master that you're hypothetically quoting there is saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You got to put that one foot in front of the other in order to get there.
It's weird. I can think that way about like exercise or personal health, right? Like that's like, but for some reason they're in my mind, like things that I think I've had some lucky breaks in the past where ideas and projects just come together really, really fast that you kind of get tricked into thinking, oh, it can be that easy every time. And, you sort of dismiss the circumstances specific to that thing. So it's just, I think it's, people need to look at creative pursuits in the same lens as exercise. Like you've got to keep doing it. Not everything you do is going to be great. That doesn't mean you stop working on it every day or stop devoting time to it. And like, at some point you're going to get in a natural groove, or you'll just have done it enough where you can kind of autopilot and it will feel a little more natural. And then it's a trick of like, well, does it feel too boring? Are you burnt out? Like, you just got to kind of be mindful of it at all times, I think.
Yeah. I think that's probably as good a turning point as we can get.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what's going on. What's been new? What's been new in your world? Like, what are you seeing? What are you gonna see? What's new?
Well, I'll tell you. I woke up this morning, as mentioned, March 24th. And
are you thinking you're gonna be assassinated and this is like your last will and testament? Like, I, Todd A, on March 24th have said that
I'll be like that. I don't know if you know the magician James Randi, who every morning wrote a new note to himself that was like, I, James Randi, have had a premonition that I will die on this day, or whatever.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
But he did it every single morning, and he dated it so that he was like, when I eventually die, I'm going to look like a genius.
That's awesome.
Maybe that wasn't Randy. Maybe that was someone he quoted. But so anyway, I woke up this morning and I'm like, lying in bed, and I grab the phone and there's a million notifications on it, and I swipe down, and I did not know that I needed to be prepared to spend $20 this morning on Rogue One, which was released today digitally. So that's what I did this morning, and that is probably what I'm going to do this weekend, is watch that.
Now is the digital version, does it include any deleted scenes or extended scenes or anything, or is it just straight up movie that you got in the theater?
I believe in the Google Play edition that I bought, there are no extras, which is a super bummer. I think I did get some extras when I got Force Awakens digitally, but I don't know. I really was like, I hesitated for like 1 second, like, should I just wait and see if digital extras come later? And then I went, nah, I want to watch it.
It's weird. Like, it's never quite clear. Like, I bought the Dark Knight Returns, that animated 2-part movie that they put out, that eventually they just put out as one continuous cut. And I didn't know. And they went through the credits. I think I was making dinner when the credits were rolling, and all of a sudden, like, all this behind the scenes stuff just started. So they just tacked on all the stuff at the very end. It's just one giant digital file that you get, but I wish they'd be more clear. And it bothers me a little bit too, that, as we move away from discs and pieces of plastic, that the need to put behind the scenes stuff, with the movie, is, you're not seeing that as much. Like, we kind of went from this deluge of like every commentary track, every like piece of content. Now, we don't need to do that anymore. We'll just, here you go. And it's like, well, no, I like that stuff too.
I know. And I texted this sort of group of nerds that I text with this morning about this, and they all chimed in like they're annoyed that that there's obviously a push to get people to buy digital first, or to try to sell people multiple, editions of the same thing, because all these guys want the Blu-ray with the extras, and because they want a piece of plastic in their house. And I don't want a piece of plastic. And I kind of had to think that through, of like, you know what? If you took all the DVDs that I have where like that have extras on them, and then you figure out like how many extras I actually watched, and then you figure out like how many extras I even gave a shit about, like, it's a really small number compared to the whole. So I think I just fall into that category of, I don't care about the extras. If the extras show up online somewhere, if they would just release them on YouTube, that I'm probably happy with that.
That would be perfect. No, that would be perfect. As long as there was somewhere to see them, that didn't require me buying a Blu-ray, that I might watch, once. Like, because your Google Play, I'm pretty staunchly Amazon Video.
Okay.
So I've got everything there, and I don't want to have to. I mean, I've got Blu-rays and DVDs, but I've been, over the years, have been sort of purging them down, to just I've either been ripping them, or just getting like the high def file from some means or method, legal or otherwise. And then the DVDs or Blu-rays I have, like the Moulin Rouge one, it's got a really freaking cool packaging. So I'll probably never get rid of that. But it's like, that's, very specific niche reasons. But it's, there's like a shelf in my house now. And that's, it's funny. My girlfriend, Rachel, like she's probably gonna be the last person on the earth who like sticks to CDs and discs and things. Like, she just can't quite make it out of that world. And I'm like, it's kind of cute. Like she'll have like, I'll come home and she'll like put a DVD in and stuff. I'm like, what an interesting old fashioned notion. Like, and she's like, stop it. It's, you know, it's, she's kind of hanging on to that, which I'm sure there will always be like the vinyl sort of lovers, you know, group of people who like, I will only ever watch Blu-ray. I will never watch the file, even though there's technically no difference.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if there was a resurgence in like film projectors, and then we had the purists who are buying like a literal 35 or 70 millimeter print of the film?
I mean, that's what Tarantino does now. I mean, he is that guy now. Like his personal stash is nothing but you know, film stuff, and then he owns the New Beverly in LA. Yeah. So he's like, he might be the only guy, like the last guy. He'll be like the oh Jesus, what's that Rolling Stone guy who Cameron Crowe? Like he'll be like the Cameron Crowe of film, because Cameron Crowe's got like this massive vinyl collection.
You're saying this, and I'm remembering, this is such a ridiculous memory of Rob Zombie on Cribs back many years ago, where he had this really funny. He didn't have a funny comment about it. I just remember at the time thinking it was funny, where he bought, like, he's such an old horror movie collector, and he had them all on like VHS, and then in the late 80s he started buying them all on Laserdisc. And then of course they were like shooting Cribs in like the dawn of the DVD era, and he was like, I guess I gotta buy them all on DVD now. And it was like, man, what an idiot. Which is unfortunately like how I kind of feel about, like, I get it if you have to have like the DVD for your, I mean, I understand why you would buy a DVD. I just don't understand the notion of like physical collections anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, books are a little different. I have my own opinions. Actually, if you go Google Rob Zombie Cribs, him in his VHS sort of parlor is one of the first things that pops up on.
I mean, it was epic.
Yeah. It looks pretty crazy. It looks like the sort of private collection, the back room of a like old school, like, you know, Blockbuster or something.
Hey, I realize, you know, in our, before we get to the other couple things that we're going to mention in like our what's going on catch up, and this is a hard turn from Rob Zombie, believe me, but I don't think I have told you at all, and certainly not in a podcast, that I was pulled on stage by Penn and Teller.
What?
Last month.
What?
So, when I mentioned James Randi earlier, it reminded me of this. So
what are the circumstances of this? Like this,
I'll walk you through it. I'll try to be brief. I'm a gigantic Penn and Teller fan. They have a almost nightly show in the Penn and Teller theater in the Rio in Las Vegas. I've seen them now 3 times there. I saw them twice at Comic-Con. I've, you know, seen Penn at a book signing, and like, I'm, you know, like if they're near me, I'm going to try to see them. I love those guys.
I had no idea you were such a
love Penn and Teller. Yeah. And so when I was back in Nashville on my last like stint when I was living there, I really got my dad into the show. They have sort of a I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of like a game show or whatever. It's just a magic show on TV on CW, with Allison Hannigan as the host, and along with Penn and Teller, and it's called Fool Us. And the idea is that these magicians come on. Penn and Teller may know the magicians, but they don't know who's on stage that night. They perform a trick that they hope will fool Penn and Teller, and Penn and Teller, like, you know, guess.
I've seen clips of this on YouTube. I haven't seen the full episode though.
It's really fun to me because there's a whole secret language that they use with people. You know, where they're like, it looks like you did the Philadelphia Inquirer there with a little bit of the back-nosed donkey or whatever. And
nice.
And then the magician on stage, like sheepishly, like kind of has to grin and go like, hey, they know how I did it. And so that's really fun. I got my dad into that. My mom, of course, had seen a lot of the episodes because I would, you know, be at their house watching it with my dad. And so for Christmas this year, I got the 3 of us tickets to see them in Las Vegas.
Oh man!
And it was like, so we know they're going to come, you know, visit me in California. Well, I told them, like, you're just going to fly to Vegas. I'll drive out there. We'll all see Penn and Teller, and we'll drive back the next day. And so anyway, that's what we do. So this was on Valentine's Day, and spoiler for anyone who might go see Penn and Teller at the Penn and Teller Theater, turn down your volume for 30 seconds. I'm going to spoil something. Not a trick, of course, not a trick. But anyway, there's a jazz group that opens every show, the Mike Jones Jazz Trio. Mm-hmm. Penn plays bass.
What?
And there's a funny thing where most people don't even realize that's Penn playing bass because they're not looking at the bass player.
Yeah. He's not in disguise or anything, is he?
He just is not in the suit, and he generally wears a hat.
Okay.
And so anyway, so I bought us tickets specifically. You can start listening again, everybody, on that side of the theater because I knew that's where it was going to be. So walked my parents down to the seat. And as they're having as they're sitting down, we're like fifth row or something, on stage left, so the right side of the theater. And so they're sitting there, and I'm still standing in a row. And I say to them, "Look, I chose these seats on purpose. Look who's playing the bass." And we all three look over there, and I swear, Penn is just dead-eyed, staring right back at me. And I'm like, oh man, that was like a meaningful stare. And I'm going in my head, I'm like, there's no way he heard me whisper to my parents, "Look who's playing bass," or something. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, I'm touched. Like there's this feeling, not touched in an emotional way. I'm touched like
by nature.
I got the touch on me. Like he's reached out with his magical powers.
He gave you the evil eye.
Exactly. I was like, for some reason, it's significant that he knows where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So the show starts, and it's also interesting to note, just trivial fact, the 2 times I'd seen them prior to this in that theater, Penn would do this thing where, they do a trick and they do their like intro, and then he would explain, we're going to do one trick from every one of our major tours, one trick from every one of our TV specials, and new stuff. So he's basically telling you, like, you're getting the greatest hits package plus some
that's
stuff.
Cool. Wow.
And he'd give a little history of how long they'd been in Vegas, etc.
A while, for those of you at home who aren't aware. A long time.
And I knew from following him on Twitter, like, they would tweet about, hey, we're working this new trick into the act tonight. So probably the first time I saw him, maybe there was a trick different between the 2 times I'd seen him before. And this time it was like half the set was different. It was crazy.
Damn.
So, excuse me for coughing. I'm going to drink some water. So they come out. The first trick is like a new thing I hadn't seen him do before. And that trick is done. He doesn't say the spiel about the greatest hits. And Penn just walks straight out. And I'm like, the whole time I was like, it's coming for me, man. He didn't look at anybody else. He just goes straight to me. "Sir, what's your name? Where are you from?" And pulls me up on stage. And it is one of my favorite tricks where, which I'm sure they've done it with people from the audience, but I swear I do not remember that someone from the audience was on stage during this trick before.
Okay.
So I'm pulled up, and it's about the TSA. They bring out a metal detector, like one that you walk through, and then they have a wand metal detector. And so my role was like to wand over his pocket, and it beeps on his breast pocket, and he pulls out this little piece of metal, and he explains this thing of like, this is actually, we sell these in the gift shop. It's the Bill of Rights printed on a piece of metal with the 4th Amendment, against illegal search and seizure highlighted in red. So the idea is you put it in your pocket, you walk through the metal detector at the airport. They say, "Sir, do you have something in your pocket?" And you say, "Here, take my rights."
Nice. Wow.
So it beeps on that, and then he's like, "Here, you can keep this. That's my souvenir for participating."
Right now, I want one of these.
What's that?
I'm going to their store right now. I want to get one of these. It's kind of cool.
And it's funny too, because like years ago, I bought this for my dad, and I didn't even buy the Penn and Teller signature edition. I bought I don't know, Cato Institute or ACLU or somebody was selling them. And so anyway, so that's the trick I participate in, which is like, I love this trick. They do stuff right in front of me where I'm still like, I don't, the whole gag is like, they explain how they settled in Vegas so that they didn't have to fly because the TSA was such a drag to them. And so Teller walks through the the metal detector, and it doesn't go off, and then he produces like a gigantic axe, like, from nowhere, just pulls it out of his jacket, and then he walks through again, it doesn't go off, and he produces like a plate of fire, and he walks through again, it doesn't go off, he pulls out like this comically oversized fire extinguisher. So not only can you not understand how he has like secreted these on his person, but the metal detector is not going off as he walks through. So then they pull out this giant like sheet that has this list of everything you can't carry on a plane, snow globes and all this stuff. And Penn's, pointing me towards it. And he's like, Todd, do you see that, look, you can't have snow globes. You can't have them, like nodding along, like scared to death to be on stage. Of course, I should clarify that. And as they're doing this, they they roll the sheet up, and a woman is standing there, and I am right next to her. I have no idea how this happened.
Wow. So in your mind, you're like, because you're in this precarious position where you're like a super fan, and you've seen some of these tricks before, and you're invited on stage. So do you is your instinct to just be like, I'm just going to enjoy this up close? Or are you like, I'm part of the show, so I need to make sure I don't fuck it up? Or like,
that was totally what it was don't fuck it up. I was so terrified. I'd driven like all day to get there and like pick my parents. I'd been stressed out all day, just trying to like kind of hit the schedule. Mm-hmm. And so like literally we sat down and I ordered a beer. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and have this beer. And then after that moment when he just dead-eyed me before the show, I was like, oh man, like I'm like the anxiety is like, creeping in. And so in the moment I was terrified, and the only conscious thought I have was, I've seen so many people get on stage and they kind of try to ham it up.
Yeah.
And my whole thought was, don't ham it up.
Yeah.
And I was very conscious that Penn, as I'm coming on stage, of course, he tells me to like walk up there and see Mr. Teller. And so I walk up there, and Teller tells me like, look, Penn's going to tell you everything to do. So just stand right here right now.
Oh, so Teller talked to you.
Teller does speak.
Oh, I know he does.
Just not in the show. So that, that was cool. I stand there, and then Penn comes up, and I was very conscious that Penn was very like forcefully grabbing my right above the elbow to position me. Yeah. And I had this thought of like, well, of course he's being forceful. Like he's making sure that I'm not in the way of this trick. Like in my head, I'm going like, don't screw it up. Don't ham it up. Don't get in their way. But then of course they're professional. They've been doing this for 40 years. Like they don't want me in their way even more than I don't want to be in their way,
Sure.
And so yeah, it was, I was terrified and scared and stuff, but in retrospect I was so touched that I got to be a part of this trick.
That's so cool.
Especially when where this like this woman appears out of nowhere, and I'm like, I was standing right there. How the fuck did you do that?
Wow. See that, and that's always what I wonder. Like when you see volunteers and shit on TV, like a Chris Angel or them or whatever, you're like, at some point you're going to be close enough where you might be able to see stuff that we don't want the audience to see. But it's cool that you just verify that. No, it was really no different. Like you didn't notice any cracks in the floor. Like you didn't feel like a burst of breeze behind you as she ran on stage or anything. It was just, there she is.
They do. So the two previous times I'd seen them. So first of all, just go see the show. It's totally worth it. Before the show, they invite you on stage to inspect a box. And the two shows before this, they also had like a letter that everyone could sign. Like you could just sign this envelope or something like that, so that later when it appears in the show, you can verify like that's actually the one that I signed. They pass it through the audience or something, and you can check and find your signature. And so it's very, it's not participatory, but it's like their whole thing is like, we're going to open this up.
Yeah.
And we're still going to fool you.
Well, I appreciate them because they're students of the Amazing Randy. Like they are all part of the Skeptic Society. Like they hate bad magic.
They believe it is immoral to fool people and not tell them they're being fooled.
Exactly.
If I'm stating that correctly.
And they're super, like just the show bullshit, like everything they've done, I've been a fan of. And actually, it's funny you mentioned this. I have met Penn Jillette in the most unusual of circumstances.
What?
When I was in high school, I worked at Wall Drug Store in good old Wall, South Dakota, where I'm actually from. And Wall is not far from Sturgis, South Dakota, where if you are familiar with the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. It happens once a year. It's massive, like 1 million people. Seriously, 1 million people come from all across the country on their bikes to the Black Hills, and they just kind of basically anything within 100-mile radius of Sturgis becomes like a satellite Sturgis. And so it's the craziest 2 weeks of the summer. It's like, massive, massive, massive tourist influx. I mean, I think about like Burning Man times 10. I mean, it's ridiculous. Well, I was at Wall Drug and I was working in the camping / Western wear department. And all of a sudden this like presence is behind me because I was putting something away. And I hear this voice, do you have any Pendleton blankets? And I look.
That's a pretty good pendulette, actually.
And I look over and I'm like, I see him and he's got like, he's dudded out in his like, leather pants with fringe and all the shit that, like he's kind of gone overboard in his biker sort of gear. And he's got a bunch of buddies and stuff. And my first thought is, that's Penn Jillette. But then my second thought is, why is Penn Jillette asking for a Pendleton blanket? That's too odd. Like no, that can't be right. That's weird. I'm like, well, what do you want again? I was like making sure that I heard him correctly. I was like, I would really love a Pendleton blanket. I really just want one. I'm fascinated by them. You have them? I'm like, actually we do. Come this way. And I walked him over and I showed him. He's talking with his friends like, yeah, we'll take 3 or 4 of these. And they all bought one. And then they bought them and left. And the whole rest of the day, I'm like, I was fervently going back through my memory. Like that had to be him. Like nobody else, very few people look like that. He's basically like the personification of Foghorn Leghorn. Like he is a tall, boisterous gentleman. And it's like, and that was before he lost a bunch of weight. So he was, was, cause now he's still very tall, but he's almost like he did the John Popper sort of weight loss program, apparently. It's crazy to watch. But anyway, so he left, and for the rest of like the day and the rest of my summer, I was just like, I think Penn Jillette bought a Pendleton blanket for me. Like I'm convinced of it.
That is such an awesome encounter.
And it wasn't like, and in my mind, I'm like, should I get him to do some magic or something? But you're just like, no, he's here to relax. He's not.
Of course, yeah.
You learn to not interfere, with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's my thing. Is I could have gone without getting pulled on stage. And if I hadn't, I probably would have. They go out in the lobby afterwards and they just stand there and let anyone take pictures with them.
Seriously?
But it's just such a mob scene.
Oh yeah.
That what they've begun doing is going to different areas, so you can't get one picture with both of them like they used to do. Mm-hmm. So they can kind of work some crowd control that way.
Yeah.
So I also felt like I remembered his book signing. Like it was very brief, but I had sort of a short personal interaction with him, and it's kind of like, that's all I want from anyone like that I admire and follow. I don't want to take up their time. I don't need some gimmicky thing that's mine alone, but yeah, it was, what a crazy encounter. I got pulled on stage for this. So I've totally derailed our conversation.
Well, I'll derail one more time. If you're into magic, check out Magicians: Life in the Impossible, now playing on Netflix. I actually watched that the other day, probably a week or two ago now, but it's this little documentary on Netflix. Or is it Netflix or Amazon?
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
I've not watched it, but I've seen it.
It's definitely watch it. It's cool. It highlights 4 different magicians at different stages of their career. One who was big in the 80s, who's not, who's kind of fallen on hard times.
Oh, wait, you're not talking about the series Magicians. This is
this is a one-off documentary.
Oh, so this may not be on Netflix. I may have misspoke. I'm not sure where this is.
I think if it's not Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime. It's on one of the two. But here's the thing. And it's fascinating, but there is, hang on, is this? Yeah, this is different thing. Trying to find hang on. Is it Magician's Life in the Impossible? Magician's documentary. What I'm getting at is there's one of the guys. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Magician's Life in the Impossible. That is the name. It follows, 4 world-class magicians, but one of them, and this is what really kind of struck me. One of them was this guy named, is it Jan Roven? It's this no, not Jan Roven. It's like this kind of Siegfried and Roy. I think he's Austrian or something like that. Young magician. There's another guy who's his partner, his gay partner, who's kind of his mentor. And that shows you their story. apparently this was edited and produced before we found out that that guy was like arrested for like massive child pornography and basically kicked out. Like both of them were like completely like, one of them was kicked out of the country. The other one was held basically indefinitely. And it's just like, holy the crap. Like you see these other guys, and like one of the other magicians, like it shows him like, you know, trying to build his career, and he gets married. And then before it ends, you find out that he ended up getting divorced because his wife couldn't take the lifestyle. It's just like, it's really interesting. If you have any interest in magic, go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on the topic, and we've mentioned him several times, Honest Liar, the documentary on James Randi, which is on Netflix, is fucking phenomenal.
Amazing.
There's another one by the sleight of hand magician that, I mean, besides Penn and Teller, like tied with them, or number 2 on my list is Ricky Jay.
Totally love Ricky Jay.
There's still a documentary on Ricky Jay on Netflix, and that is so unbelievable. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times.
Ricky Jay does not get enough notoriety. I mean, he does in the magic community, but just in the populace at large, like he still goes under the radar. And that dude is like,
I know.
I mean, I was so appreciative when he popped up in The Prestige as in like a cameo role. Like he's one of the early magicians that you see like performing. You're like, oh my God, it's Ricky Jay. He's a big guy, bearded guy.
Like you've seen him. That's the thing is like, and he's so, that's, you know, Penn and Teller have their act is so wonderful to me. Like I love their whole personality and everything. And Ricky Jay, same thing, but it is a totally different personality. And I think, you know, Penn and Teller make a lot of being like the kind of, they're a spin on the Carnival Barker kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And Ricky Jay is just, you know, he's his own spin on the, like the quiet, card shark kind of thing, basically, you know.
He's the guy you go to like a very small, like maybe 20-person room or something. Yes. He sits down and it's like, it's invite only. And like, here he is. Like, he's like a master craftsman of magic. Like, he's not the guy who's going to come out and like make a spaceship disappear and scream out like, do it. You know, like, he's not that guy with like Yanni playing in the background. He's like I actually respect Ricky Jay more because there are no lights and frills. It's pure technical prowess. That's all you're seeing.
It's, you know, totally. And that documentary is fascinating if you haven't seen it. And there's so much good magic in it. All like close up, sleight of hand, card maneuvering and stuff. It's really incredible. Plus, he's such a historian of magic. And he's written like 40 books or something. And it's fascinating. I love that. I just watched Boogie Nights a couple of weeks ago and loved his performance in that, by the way.
Nice.
He's the director of photography for.
Wait, whoa! Ricky Jay is the director of photography for Boogie. He's the DP for Boogie Nights.
No, not for the film Boogie Nights. In the movie, he plays the DP. Like,
sorry,
the guy that like Burt Reynolds is always like leaning over, like get that shot in there or whatever. That's all.
Oh my God! Jay. Wow.
I'm like, Jack, we ran out of film on this one. Just replace the canister. Keep going.
How odd! What an odd little.
It is weird.
No idea. Anyway,
yeah, because he's like such a so many directors are fans of his, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He's gonna be one of those guys that, like, I think, I hate to say this, but if and when he passes, like, I think he'll just continue to be more and more well respected long after he's gone, you know.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's fantastic. Same with Penn and Teller. What a weird turn for this show to take into magic. I think we should maybe table a couple of these things that we put in here because I can talk about some other movies and TV shows I've been watching at a later point.
Sure. Let me ask you this, Will, before real quick. Okay. Have you watched Iron Fist yet?
So I don't think there's a real quick answer to that.
But have you watched any of it yet?
I have watched 6.5 episodes.
Okay. So you've seen, you're acquainted with it.
I was watching 7 today, number 7. And 2 totally disgusting things happen in it. One involves some dead bodies being dismembered, and the other involves Iron Fist hooking up with Colleen Wing, which is awful because he doesn't deserve her.
Yeah.
He's such a boring idiot character, and she is so interesting. And
that's what everybody keeps saying. Like, I've only watched 2, and I won't get it. I mean, I I had to put it down to disgust.
I mean, it's just there's it's one of those things that's like tainted by a not even like a controversy, but a criticism of its approach to racial politics.
Yeah.
But it's so clearly like you could take that criticism completely off the table and it's just not a good show. So it doesn't really like that is a very accurate criticism of the show, but you don't even need that criticism to say it still doesn't hold up.
Yeah, that is the least of its problems. Let's just put it that way.
We have talked so much about Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and talked a little bit about we have talked a lot about the slog at certain points of those series and how Jessica Jones literally could have pulled 3 episodes out of its run. And Luke Cage would have been much better if it had just been split in half and there had been a Cottonmouth series and then a second series with what's his name, the brother.
Yeah, totally.
But Iron Fist is like they should. I mean, so much is wrong with it, like from casting to like the energy of the character and I don't care for Danny Rand at all in the show.
I told you via text that this should have been the batshit crazy Tarantino series of the 4. Go like if Kung Fu, like this should have been Kill Bill plus The King.
Yeah. That would have been so much cooler if it were like mixed a bunch of cartoons in with, crazy Kingsman kind of action and they could have chopped up this format so much. Plus, isn't Iron Fist like a wisecracking, like kind of jackass? Like I haven't read much of the comics, but I'm pretty sure in the Power Man and Iron Fist like duo, Luke Cage is the like stoic badass. And Iron Fist is the tiny little like hyperkinetic guy that's like constantly wisecracking and stuff. And in the show, he's just a boring like idiot. He's just an idiot. He's like, he just has no concept of whom to trust or like why he doesn't fit in certain situations. It's like he's just I don't know.
The ultimate Spider-Man cartoon where it's like Spider-Man leading like the new Young Avengers. I forget.
Oh, right.
He's in that and like he's very fun and like he still like has this like stoic mysticism too, but it's mixed with sort of a cute kind of little innocence that because he's so good at what he does. Like he's so good at Kung Fu that like there's kind of like this weird kind of innocent confidence. The other thing I was going to mention, and this is something I have not seen. I mean, I knew it was announced, but nobody has really talked about it. Obviously, what's the actor who plays Danny Rand? Finn Jones. He was obviously from Game of Thrones. Colleen Wing was one of Oberon's daughters on Game of Thrones too. I had no idea.
Nymeria Sand.
Because I saw her, I'm like, why is she so goddamn familiar? And then I looked up, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. They cast her. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And it's not just it also all in all the Marvel stories so far, at least the ones we've watched, it's like the main character is interesting and then there's always been this tension of like the person right next to him is just as interesting and it really just strengthens the whole cast, and like Jessica Jones not only had Luke Cage, who was awesome in it and such a great relationship for her, but also Patsy Walker. Wasn't her name Patsy in that?
Yep.
She was so cool. And isn't it in Jessica Jones where she does all the work for the Carrie-Anne Moss character? Yep. Yeah. Such Hogarth. A great, like all those things are great. Then the, Purple Man, Mr. Invincible or whatever Doctor Who's name is in that. He's awesome. Like, and then in Luke Cage, you think like Misty Knight is so good, and Cottonmouth, like Mahershala Ali's character is so good. It's the character and actor's name escaped me for the councilwoman in Luke Cage.
Alfred Woodard's character.
Alfred Woodard's character, yeah, but they're all so good. And in Iron Fist, it's like, Colleen Wing, Jessica Henwick, I think that's her name.
And she's the dude from 300, like that. What's the guy? The dude from 300 who's also in Lord of the Rings.
Faramir.
Yeah, Faramir.
I don't even care for him. His character makes no sense in Iron Fist.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was like, I love that actor, but Jesus, that whole character just made no sense at all.
That whole family, so I'm so frustrated. So I can't tell. I don't know if I'm going to hate watch the next like 6.5 episodes, or if when I turned it off today,
I mean, if you do, we'll do like a whole episode on this, because I mean, at this juncture, I think everybody's said what needs to be said, even in addition to what we just said. So it's just like, it's disappointing. And it makes me, I think I told you via text too. Basically they had a lot of goodwill after Luke Cage, and now it's almost like they have to claw a lot of that back once Defender starts. Like, they can't just jump into Defenders like, hey, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be like, all right, let's see, and that's not really the best posture to be in, I guess.
So let's jump into something else. Did you told me that you might go see the Power Rangers movie this weekend?
I might, but it was brought to my attention that I haven't seen Unbreakable yet, and I should probably do that as well. So I might just do that tonight instead.
What is Unbreakable?
Oh my God. So you're in the same boat. Great. So Unbreakable is the one M. Night Shyamalan movie that like is really, really good. That still holds up today. And apparently.
Oh, like the old movie.
Yeah. With
Sam Jackson, right?
Yeah. And Bruce Willis and all that. Like, and for whatever reason, A, didn't know it was M. Night Shyamalan. B, didn't know how it had to do with comics and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm just like, what? Somehow it snuck through the world without me being aware of it. I mean, I've heard of it, but I had no idea what it was. And then since Split has come out, spoilers, apparently at the end of Split,
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
There is supposed to be a tangential, I've not seen it, but there's supposed to be a tangential plot at the very, very tip of the end of Split that makes you think that an Unbreakable 2 might be on its way.
Whoa.
And I'm like, holy crap. So I need to watch Unbreakable 1, I guess. So I'm going to probably do that. Part of me really wants to see the Power Rangers movie, mainly because, I mean, I was never a fan growing up, really. It was always sort of amusing, but I was not to the same, like, I was a Dragon Ball Z kid. Like, I wasn't a Power Rangers kid. And yes, there is a difference for those of you at home. Like, what's the difference? Like, there's a big one, damn it. But it's apparently, and I learned this from like all my IO9 discussions, apparently Bryan Cranston, even pre-Seinfeld, did a lot of voices for villains in Power Rangers. And like, you couldn't even tell it's him because he's like, I'm the villain, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's very arch and very just sort of campy. So awesome. The fact that Bryan Cranston is now playing the voice of and face of Zordon in the movie is kind of like, I almost want to see it just to salute that, Right. And then I feel like Elizabeth Banks, just, being Elizabeth Banks and all her, batshit crazy glory is going to be fun. So I feel like it's worth it just for that.
Interesting. I won't, there was a Power Rangers movie before, right?
Yes, but that was with the cast of the TV show.
Gotcha.
And that was in 1994. So it's been a while.
I know nothing about them, and I won't bust the people involved, but I remember some friends taking acid and then going to see that movie.
Oh, Jesus.
They were like, that was not enjoyable.
Remember that dark freaking thing that Dawson's Creek put out like maybe 2 or 3 years ago? It was like a dark Power Rangers fan film. And like, did you ever see that?
Creek?
Hang on.
I know who you're talking. Like, what's his name? Dawson put it out, right?
Yeah, Dawson put it. But he was in it, and he helped produce it.
Right.
It's like Power Rangers. Hang on here. Oh shoot, James Vanderbeek. He wrote it and produced it, and Katie Sackhoff is in it.
Yep.
James Vanderbeek.
Oh, I do remember this, and people were just like, "This is the film we want."
Yeah, because it was all dark, and it's hilarious. The same people who are like, "The DC cinematic universe is too grimdark." As soon as this came out, they're like, "This is what we want. This is the dark, twisted version of Power Rangers that we've always needed." And it was very hardcore. Like, there was very little. I think there's maybe one shot very, very quickly of like this, the Voltron Zord put together. And then otherwise it's all like very moody. And, I think at one point 2 of them have sex I haven't seen it for so long, but it was hilarious because Saban, who owns the Power Rangers, like put out a cease and desist and all this shit. And they negotiated back and forth. I mean, it's only 14 minutes. So it's, what are you going to do? But like, this was purely a fan film. Like, I don't think they profited on it at all. It was just purely like this is our little artsy side project. And finally Saban's like, okay, but you have to like make it very clear that you can't use the logo, like nothing. It has to be very much its own thing. So if you look at the poster for it, that's like on Wikipedia, it's like, you would never know that was a Power Rangers movie.
Right. Yeah. That's some kind of different name.
Yeah. It's Power/Rangers. I think it's very much not that. It's very much a parody at, in every.
Well, I did notice in one of the previews that I groaned through for Power Rangers, probably before Logan, that when the title came up, it said like Saban's Power Rangers. Yeah. And I was like, what? I mean, nobody cares the name of that's so stupid.
Oh, Haim Saban cares, man. He cares a lot. I think weird. I really do. Like, it's a big dumb action movie, and I'm kind of like, And this new theater I found that we talked about on Logan, like I kind of want to see a big dumb action movie there prior to like the Galaxy, but we'll see.
Well, I would say, so we had also had this planned discussion of like comic book stuff. What if we table that too?
Let's do that.
And let's just pick that up in another episode, because I think we had a pretty good discussion.
Let's talk about that next week, because I want to get into it.
Because I want to ask you about those comics that you listed on there.
I'll give everybody at home a teaser. All right. A teaser to think you go home, read these, and we'll talk about them next week if you're so inclined. And keep in mind, I am somebody who traditionally does not just go for the DC Marvel fare. I'm pretty out there in the hinterlands reading stuff that's not necessarily mainstream. The three that I'm sort of consuming like a fiend right now are the Meta Baron, not the Meta Barons. This is a newer series called the Meta Baron, still involving Jodorowsky. Adina, which is a newly released collection of a lot of really cool Moebius stories.
Now spell that.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Edena. Edina. Seriously, guys, go get that book. Oh God, go get that book. And then this is the final year of East of West. They're wrapping it up. This is the final year of the apocalypse. So definitely get on that train if you haven't. It's getting really good. I can feel like there was a couple issues there where it was a little like tedious, and now you can tell Hickman's like, okay, let's get going. Let's finish this thing up, which is great, because I'm always a fan of series that know when they're supposed to stop. So those three, and I was, East of West is what really kicked off my Image sort of, crush for a while. And it's cool that I'm back into it in a major, major way again. So we'll talk more about that next week.
That's a good topic. And I'll say, if anyone out there is looking for a movie suggestion, go see Get Out.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Is it as good as everybody keeps saying it is?
Definitely. And the kicker to it is that it is so and like deliberate and slow to unfold.
Nice.
That it'll, it could throw you off if you go in like with crazy huge expectations. Like, it's not a big, huge movie in any sense, and it just rolls out with this like the suspense, and the story just builds, and you just got to sit there and like take it. And it goes like, if you haven't read all the spoilers, it's like definitely going to go in some way that you could not have pictured.
So there's not like a twist that you can see coming that you're just like conscious of the whole time.
I don't think so. And even if I told you like what some of the twists were, I don't think it would like ruin it. I'm not going to do that, but it's it's so taut and so well made, so well acted, and like, absolutely go see it.
It's interesting because didn't Ex Machina come out about this time of year 2 years ago? And it very much.
I want to say that was more like winterish, but yeah.
Because that was another movie that was basically the same thing, like slow, deliberate, like focused. Like I'm a fan of those kinds of movies.
Yeah, especially where it's like it doesn't have a huge budget, but nothing in the film makes you like, you're not watching it going like, oh, they didn't have much of a budget. Mm-hmm. It's like everything that you need to know happens. Like everything you need to see, they had budget for.
Nice.
So
it's Key and Peele's. Is Peele the director, or like one of those guys?
It is. Yes, it is Jordan Peele.
Jordan
Peele, the director.
Yeah. Damn, just that alone. Go see it.
I know, and I'll tell you, because I think we're still in the week of #Tripod, where people are tweeting about podcasts that they're, recommending for other people to listen to. The Black Girl Nerds podcast interviewed Jordan Peele in their Get Out episode, and it is so cool. Their conversation with him is very cool, and there's just some good, bits that you learn about the movie that definitely enhanced my appreciation of it after watching it. So after you watch it, go to the Black Girl Nerds podcast and listen to their Get Out episode. It's super good.
Rock on. Well,
#Tripod.
#Tripod.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at same old at Taylor Trask on Twitter. And that's basically that's the main place I like to interact with folks. What about you?
I am at Hey Todd A on Twitter, which also is the main place I like to interact with people.
And we are both at their.network.
That is true. And we should give a shout out to this past week. We released an episode of Fan Theories from our friends Emily Kelly and Peter Cunin. They talk about fan theories surrounding the Mass Effect video game and its universe. And then secondly, we debuted a brand new show that you should tell us about. What is it called?
It's the little show that I'm doing solo called People of Interest. Very original title, as you can see. But it really is. It's I just wanted to do a bunch of interviews with cool folks that I knew or wanted to meet. And this seemed like a good way to do it. And they're kind of
can you sum up what kind of interviews they are? What are these folks involved in?
Well, I've gotten lucky in that the last 3 or 4 I've done have been almost exactly an hour. So if you want to know what you're in for, it's a good focused hour. We talk about their careers. We talk about, first episode with my friend Paul Rohr. He's a local Denver actor, producer, acting coach. We get into a little of his past. We talk a lot about the Denver film scene and just the film business in general, which has got really fun. And he will be back. I mean, there's a lot to chat about. My next one coming up is with my friend, Dr. E. Michael Harrington. We talk about copyright, the music business, a lot of good stuff there too. So
nice.
Keep an eye on People of Interest as the year progresses. We'll have more and more for you to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, and check out both those podcasts, as well as the Todd and Taylor Show and Wednesday and Westeros and everything on their.network. If you go to their.network, you will find all the iTunes and Google Play links. You should be able to find all of our stuff on Stitcher and SoundCloud and stuff like that. So
wherever podcasts are sold.
Exactly. Or free from us. All right. Well, till next time, I've been Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask.
Bye.